All right. Spawning in the upper right. In the red, he is the Protoss player for the Afrika Freaks. Give it up for Trap. And his opponent in the bottom left. In the blue for Dragon Phoenix Gaming. Excuse me, Kaizi Gaming. He's the one. The only. He's Solar. I swear, the fact that Dragon Phoenix Gaming and Kaizi Gaming, and I think there's a third team sponsored out of China as well that have a very similar, not naming structure, because Dragon Phoenix Gaming and Kaizi Gaming are very different, but their logos are incredibly similar in their color palette and everything else. So, with that happens, it's very easy. Like, they're the same thing. They're not the same thing. But, you know, the colors get me all confused for whatever reason. Apparently, I just categorize things by the color of the logo. Not what the logo looks like, just what color it is. Because apparently that's how things go here. But we do have, this is going to be Juggernaut. Map number 1 of this series, Trap versus Solar. Trap, of course, getting out in his group second place, surprisingly enough, falling 2-1 to Beyond before he was able to 2-1 Rogue in the final match. So that's already a really good result to his name. Of course, Rogue is the king, or has been, long been the king of late game ZVP. He was the person that taught Zergs how to play that style, for the most part, before it became ubiquitous back in 2019, when you were at that point where it just didn't feel like the Protoss could win a game against Zerg. But it feels like we're past that point now, and certainly in the late game, this double Stargate style that has become more and more popular is just really powerful in this matchup. More importantly, it's really powerful on maps like Juggernaut, maps like this, where the third base is somewhat defensible, where the map is long, where it is more of a macro map, and that's kind of an interesting dichotomy, or an interesting change in the traditional ZVX paradigm, where normally the way Zerg looks at maps and the way Zerg approaches maps is they look at a map, they say, hey, look, the bigger the map is, the better it is for me. It makes it that much harder for you to get aggressive. It means it's that much harder. Okay. Means it's that much harder for you to do damage to me. I mean, I can get up to 80 workers more easily. It's fine. But in this matchup, actually, the bigger, more defensible, more macro maps are actually turning into Protoss favored maps, strictly because they can get that fast third, they can defend it with double Stargate, they can get into that Golden Armada tech path that it is so difficult for the Zerg to fight head on. And it looks like, Trap, for a second, we did have this idea. As I apologize, looks like I thought I turned up all my notifications, but apparently not all of them. There we go. Anyway. English. Where was I going with this? Absolutely. So, we did have Trap. It looked like he was going for a Templar Archives, and he's like, wait a minute here. This is a big map. I kind of want to do the build. I want to do the build that's been so powerful, so let's actually get a Stargate, and let's go from there. But interestingly enough, we do notice this is an Oracle first, not a Void Ray first. And what that means is actually Trap's going to go across the map here with his Oracle, with these 2 Adepts, and try to find just a really nice timing where he will be able to put, say, 2 Adepts in the third and an Oracle in the main, really try to split the attention of our blue Zerg player. But Solar, he's already getting ready here. We do have 2 spores, well, 1 more spore on the way, but 1 spore already done. I believe that's a spore in the main base. And of course, there are no workers in the natural, so it doesn't really have to defend that here. Now the Adepts will find their way on in. 2 workers go down immediately. Maybe we're going to see a third go down, but unlikely from the Adepts. But now the Oracle's here, and Trap with a little bit of surprising micro errors there coming in from his Oracle, because the Oracle was flying over those drones for quite a good bit of time without really getting anything done. Not turning on the pulsar beam, not targeting anything down. Now a bunch of Zerglings, they're flooding on over to this third base. This is a 4 minutes 10 second third base, which is not quite as fast as the traditional 350 third that you do when you kind of go this double Stargate build. So we're going to have to see whether that is something that Trap is actually going for, or whether he's just going for a more middle-of-the-road variant. Now, these Zerglings are actually causing a lot of havoc, and actually will get this Stalker before the Oracle does come home, cleans them all back, but 2 workers have died, a Stalker's died, a couple of Adepts have died. This is not the clean opening that Trap was looking for, but also, this is not what I'm almost referring to as the build. This is not 353rd into 2nd Stargate, yada, yada, yada. The build that has just been so powerful against Zergs, actually explicitly in this tournament, but in ensuing weeks as well. As now we have a Templar Archives on the way. Or Twilight, yeah, Templar Archives. No, Twilight Council, there we go. I know what this building's called, on the way. As well as a Forge. So we're going to get much faster into the ground tech off of the couple defensive Void Rays. Normally you want to go up to 6 off of 2 Stargate, then you go into that ground tech, and then after that you get your Fleet Beacon, drop a 3rd Stargate, 3rd or 4th Stargate, you go into carriers, it's fine. So these adepts will shade on the way in here. Not going to be able to get a whole lot done, but again, this is lost mining time for Solar. This is APM that Solar is spending trying to make sure that he does not lose too many workers, and he does lose 2 workers anyways. Will not get the 3rd. Nice transfuse there from Solar, making sure that he does not lose anything. So behind this, of course, we will go into Charge Lot Archon. Will be the play of the day. And Solar, for his part, there's a Spire coming down. Now, I don't know whether this is going to be for mutas. It very well may be for some sort of kind of roach timing. I think, given the tech that Trap has shown, I think it's much more likely that it will be mutas. Because this is not a 2 Stargate build, this is just a 1 Stargate build. And while double Stargate build, going mutas against that is a very just one and done. You build 10 mutas, you try to kill as many workers as you can, and you just go from there. Oh, Trap's going to recall, but he will lose the Oracle again. Interesting, uncharacteristically poor control from Trap in this game. But hey, you know, as long as he gets Storm out, does it really matter? Now we do have the Void Ray. Again, these Void Rays, they're just defensive tools. They're going to make it so any Zerglings that try to get on top of their base not going to really be able to do a whole lot. But Solar will scout the fact that there are 4 TIE Templar gathering energy outside of the 3rd base, and that will tell him all that he needs to know about the state of this game. He says, okay, this is not some Charge Lot Archon timing, which of course do exist off of the 3rd base. This is not something like that. No, this is just going to be Charge Lot Archon Storm. I don't think that will change his tech path all that much. If he had any thought of just getting Mass Corruptors, I don't think that's going to be the case, and that doesn't make a whole lot of sense with this game state anyway. So 7 mutas are on the way. I think we're going up to about 10, most likely. This actually may be a hardcore commitment, but considering we do have +1 ranged attack and speed on the way, I don't think so. I think this is just more of a harassment tech, and then Solar's going to mass switch on into ground after he's forced a response to the air tech. Alright, so now there's a 2nd Stargate on the way. I guess because Trap has scouted the mutas, and the mutas will be a big problem. There are no cannons that are completed in these mineral lines, so the mutas will be able to just have their way with things. But now we do have Phoenix on the way here. But already we're starting to see so many probes get cut down. 4 already going down. And, well, there's more where that came from. Now we're going to see some storms on top of this, but look at this, the mutas, they're just going to go and target down every single one High Templar. But, hey, there is a shield battery, which means that actually the High Templar won't go down. And you're just going to see, well, 2 mutas have died. 6 remain, and that's going to be the extent of the commitment here from Solar in this game number 1. Mutas, kind of almost a red herring. Of course, they want to get damage done, but the goal there really is to force Trap into a tech path that maybe Trap does not want to go into. Actually, was that Stargate canceled? Oh, no, it was completed. But the 4th base of Trap is now going to go down. Meanwhile, Solar, he's got 4 bases. He's got a 5th base done. Not mining yet, but it is done. And if we look at the income differential here, it is... well, Solar's mining a lot. So this is your traditional ZVP mid-game setup where the Protoss has the more expensive average cost on the army. Although it's not more expensive, quote-unquote, not yet, although definitely more expensive from a gas perspective. The more expensive average cost per unit of the army. And eventually it's going to have the more expensive army, the more supply-dense army. But on the flip side, Solar, he just has a lot of stuff. Sitting here at double the army supply of his opponent, up 20 workers, up massively from an economic perspective, taking more and more and more bases. He's just going to look to hit with the Fist of Zerg. Not to be confused with the Fist of Neve, which is, 190 supply of Skytoss. No. This is just going to be waves and waves and waves of decently tech. And oh, look at this double Lurker Den on the way. Solar looking to hit a really crisp timing here where he has both a Lurker range and Lurker burrow speed to make sure that he can just absolutely shred his opponent's army. Now the storms will land and they will be decent. Of course, some of the storms landing on top of his own army here, but realistically the zealots don't matter a ton. They're not the most important thing in this game. As long as the Zerg army does not kill him, Trap's going to be A-okay here. And look at this. The supply gap is equalizing. It's now only a 30 supply lead in army instead of a 70 supply lead, 50 supply lead that it was once before. And there we have Adaptive Talons on the way. Second Lurker Den will be done soon, and then we should see Seismic Spines. And that timing, that's going to hit at about, what is it, 11:30? Is going to be the timing that Trap is looking for. Now, I find it interesting with the dearth of attacks, or the dearth of aggression we're seeing here from Solar in this game number 1. Trap has not decided to go further up the tech tree faster. We only just now see the fleet beacon on the way, only 2 Stargates. So Trap could very easily have gone up into carriers just about a minute earlier, and that would just really invalidate this push that Solar is looking to make in, well, a period of time, once Seismic Spines is done, however long that is really going to take. And hey, once you have like 4 carriers, Hydras, and especially once you have upgrades, Hydras are not all that powerful. Granted, I mean, these are soon going to be 2-0 Hydras, but again, carriers with an upgrade. So if it's +1 air, +2, well, +2 air, sure, but +1 air is that really important breakpoint. Hydras just melt. They only have 90 health per Hydra, very little armor, and they just absolutely melt to the power of a bunch of carriers that attack that fast because of how upgrades impact things. But now we have a really powerful ground army. So now we have a bunch of lurkers here. They will burrow on in. First storm will land, and again, if one storm kills it, it does about half damage to a lurker. And lurkers, they don't clump up all that much, so it's difficult to get the storms you're actually looking for here. But you've got to remember, we do have a mothership on the way. Trap continuing to build more and more and more observers because well, he needs it, but this is also 3 Robo Protoss, which is kind of insane. You really don't see triple Robo all that often. I mean, you'll see double Robo all the time, but adding that 3rd Robo, 3 Robo production, it's just something that is quite strange, quite interesting. Out of the meta, to be sure, but now Solar, he has that Wrecking Ball army that he has been looking for. 17 lurkers exist. More lurkers than there are Hydras. So this eventual swap into air tech is going to catch him by surprise, but you cannot fight into that Trap. Not at all. You see the lurkers burrow, and just immediately everything dies. Nice run by here from Trap. We'll make sure, though, that Solar's economy does not get too out of control, just a little bit out of control. And this is a really nice concave from our Afrika Freaks Protoss player, but it's 17 lurkers. I'm not sure how much it matters whether there's a good concave or not. The storms are going to be okay, and sure, some of these lurkers are going to go down. But again, it's 15 lurkers, man. I don't even know what you're supposed to do here. And now we do have Solar. He's pushing on forward. Actually, I do know what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to progress past your tech path. You're not supposed to be trying to fight this with a ground army. You're supposed to go on into carrier, void array, something that can just fight the air. So now the storms will go on in once again, and the Immortals will find a morphing one. But you got to remember also, this detection here, the Hydras, their first method of business is to target the observer down. But now we have a really nice flank coming on in here. The void arrays, they are standing strong, and all the lurkers, well, they're just gonna go down here. Trap taking the fight that he has been looking for the last just about 5 minutes, ever since the lurker tech of Solar really came to fruition. And look at this tiny little Frank, a bunch of charge less that did such a good job knocking out the 6th base of Solar. Well, now it's going to well, they're gonna help a little bit, force that flank. But now we do have 2 Immortals on the way. How many of... There are more Immortals than there are Hydras on the map for the moment, which is just an insane amount of Immortals here. And as well, there's just enough detection that doesn't really matter. The mothership not doing a whole lot for things, outside of allowing for recall, perhaps. But yeah, this charge lot run by, not really going to get a whole lot done. It's just going to be a mineral sink for our Afrika Freaks Protoss. But you gotta remember, he's being active with more than just one army here, doing a really good job of removing a lot of creep. And I think because the creep has not reached that 9, 10 o'clock base, Trap is not aware of the fact that Solar has taken the base. But now we do have the army coming on in once again. How many lurkers are we at? We are back at 17 lurkers. These storms are actually going to be really juicy. But you gotta be careful. Once again, this is not an army that is easily dealt with. But now, of course, well, if you can't deal with it, you just go around it. Can't go over it, can't go under it. Just got to go around it. It's now the lurkers will all land, and we're going to start to see things evaporate. The hardened shields of these Immortals, they're going to do a Jack Diddley squad here. And Trappy will be forced back once again. But these storms are going to be pretty nice. So many Archon, or so many Immortals are going down. How many Immortals have died over the course? Only 4 Immortals, 5 Immortals. have died, but that number is going to change rather quickly. And how the... Okay, this is pretty cool. The mothership was recalled to save the base. But of course, the mothership's now going to get targeted down. But in all honesty, I don't really know how much this mothership is doing anyways. I'm not really complaining about its the lack of it in this game as Trap. That just frees up more supply for things like carriers. Things like more immortals, things like units that are actually powerful. And Trap will find this perspective 6 base once again. Will get taken down. And in a game like this, you really want to be minded to have mind as much as your opponent, because this game is guaranteed to go a little bit longer at the very least. That being said, though, it looks like Trap has found a pretty great opening here. Got to be careful, though, that this is a massive lurker surround, so we cannot stay around here for all too long. And now we do have Solar running on in for a full lurker surround. Burrow and fight here as the lurkers, they're going to get their shots off, and we're just going to start to see this army of Trap is going to fall apart here in this game number 1. Trap now down 50 supply, and not in a great tech position. Yeah, sure, we have carriers on the way, 2 are out, 2 more are on the way, but there is no, and I repeat, there is no upgrades for this. That means these 2-1 Hydras are going to be able to fight the carriers pretty damn well. Now the Hydras are moving forward. Lurkers sitting behind, and the Storms are just going to have to be absolutely massive. The first one will be, but we're going to need more where that came from. It looks like we only have 1 Storm, at least with this army, for the moment. Alright, Trap appears to have been caught into a trap here. Solar, laying in wait. Really just looking for that perfect engagement that will allow him to remove all the interceptors from the map, remove all the storms from the map. And oh no, the lurkers, they found the High Templar. They're just going to burrow target these High Templar down. And how quickly do they die? 1 dead, 2 dead. And now the Hydras, they're going to go forward. Lurkers, they're going to go forward. So many forced Archons. Archons that will not even see the light of day here. There are no storms left on the map. And when there are no storms, when the Corruptors are able to get on top of all of the carriers, Hydras just moving forward. These are 2-1 Hydras. They are powerful. And GG Solar, he's going to take the first game in this series. And there we have it. It's going to be a 1-0 lead for Solar. And that's not all that surprising. Solar, of course, he took out Serral 2-1 in Group D, but more importantly, he 2-0'd stats earlier on in that group. He has shown some incredible prowess with ZVP over the last several weeks. And I mean, he showed that too. He 2-0'd stats, who has had some of the best PvZ over the last year. Maybe not as much recently after we do see the kind of ascendance of Trap, but still, stats, scary player, absolutely powerful player, and the fact that Solar 2-0'd him to get into the winner's match to knock off Serral, well, that's pretty good. That's extremely good. But now, this is more than just a best of 1. It's more than a best of 3 even. It will be a best of 5. And so Trap, he's going to look to strike back here, turn it into a functionally best of 3 on our second map in the series. As we wait to get loaded on in, second map of the series will be Romanticide. Of course, Solar nursing that 1-0. Here we are, spawning in the bottom right, in the red, down 1-0. He is Trap. And his opponent in the upper left, in the blue for KaiZ Gaming. Give it up for Solar. So this is Submarine, which means there's always the opportunity for there to be a 12 pool, but that's not what we see in this game, as there we have a natural will go down, Trap not getting the block. The Solar went for a 15 pool on this map, which is a valid adaptation to how small the map is, but really, realistically, we don't see a lot of Zergs doing that anymore. It's just you send the drone at 100 minerals for a 16 pool, or a 16 hatch, excuse me, and if the probe is there, you just kind of go take your third. But on this map in particular, the thirds are really far away from the natural, really far away from the main, and they're not all that great to defend anyways, so you really want to make sure you have that safety natural in a good position. So therefore, 15 hatch. That being said, though, it's not really going to do too much for Solar here. It means he's going to be a little bit later on his gas time. Yet on the flip side, not all that big of a difference, and he will have his queens that will time up pretty nicely anyways. So that one benefit of the 16 hatch will you get in the 15 hatch too. Even if things are just a little bit later. In the context of this game, most likely not going to be all that impactful. Because Trap has really not shown a desire to go for these hyper-aggressive options. We don't see Trap cannon rushing. We don't see Trap proxy 4-gating. I can't remember I've seen one proxy 4-gate in a pro game, I think in the last 2 years. And that was in a Apprentice game. So not at the GSL DreamHack Masters level anyways. And to be totally fair to that proxy 4-gate, it just got slapped aside. So, one base Protoss build's not all that popular at this highest of levels, and that just makes sense. I mean, it's just not very good. But, oh, this is interesting. So Trap will drop a pylon on this third base to block it. I can't imagine he's going to allow this pylon to complete. Because, yeah, now the Zerglings are here. They will find it, and that does mean that this pylon should get canceled before it does complete here. The Zerglings will force that to be true. What do we have Solar going for? Actually, yeah, okay, so the pylon will get canceled. Now, we do have the third base going down, but it's going to be a little bit late. 32 supply is supposed to the 28. Not that big of a deal, but it's a bit annoying. And this is going to be a Templar tech. Or, sorry, a Glaive tech coming on in from Trap in this game number 2. Now, there is the chance for DTs. But, you know, 9 games out of 10, when you see the Twilight Council, when you see the Robo, it will be just Adept Glaives, 4 gates, and there we go. Glaives are on the way. Now, of course, there is a DT follow-up to this. But that really feels like it's fallen out of the meta over the last, I don't know, 6 months. It was a strong and highly popular result for a little bit, a highly popular follow-up for a little bit, but then Zergs just learned that, okay, if you see the Twilight Council, you just always drop a, spore at 4 minutes anyways, and you will be fine. So that really has just not been as, well, 3 spores, but has not been quite as impactful. Has had quite the same results as it used to. Still, though, Trap, he's going to go for this. It will, be, of course, be 4 gates. He's not going to go super all-in here. Of course, this build is kind of all-in in that you do have to do damage, but this is not going to be a 6-gate, 2-base, Glaive Adept all-in that we do occasionally see Protoss players throw out there. It never really seems all that powerful. Well, as I say that, we're seeing some extra gates getting added here, going up to 5 gates. Actually, going up to, I'm sorry, going up to 6 total gates here. Yeah, so absolutely, Trap is going for that build that I said no one goes for. Wow. What a prescient caster am I. This is the caster curse in the full extent. So, of course, first off, Trap is going to go for the build that he's going to make it look like this is just the 4-gate build. Because A, his extra 2 gates, they're not even done yet. So, warping in 4 adepts at a time, they're going to look to trade away, maybe kill a queen if they are so lucky. And that queen actually will get transfused. And so the adepts, they can't fight for too much longer because there are no shades that force the Zerglings to not fight. But now, 6 gates are done. 6 adepts will get warped in at a time here. And this is where things get a little bit scary for Solar, because what does he have? Does he have any roaches? He has 6 roaches, but this is almost, honestly an adept count that can start to fight the roach count here. So the queen will get targeted down, the roaches will get targeted down here, and where will the adepts go? They will go on into the main base, trying to get some damage done here. Now there is a pulse around on all these Zerglings, but when you're working with 6-gate adept, the Zerglings don't do a whole lot. They just don't do the type of damage you're looking for. And yeah, the adepts, they will just cancel their shade, targeting down the hatch for a little bit here. I think I would have preferred to see it targeting on the spawning pool, but that's going to be fine. Another queen will get assassinated. And once again, the adepts, they will find their way on into the natural here. The Zerglings are going to look for a surround, and the roaches are there as well. But again, I've got to remember, the Zerglings, they fight really poorly against the adepts of Trap. So Trap will be able to take some fairly significantly positive trades here. But he has to do more than this. You've got to remember, this is incredibly all-in from our red Protoss player. He's only on 36 workers. He is only mining gas. He's only mining gas off of 2 extractors. No third base on the way. And all of this means is he has to do more damage. He has only killed 3 workers. And yeah, he's killed 32 lings, a couple queens, and a roach. Sure. But he has to do game-ending damage. He has to do game-defining damage for this to be worthwhile. And it does not feel like Solar has given him the opportunity to. Now we do see a little bit more annoying option here as these Thor adepts, they will get dropped on into the main base. War Prism really making good account of itself. But now, well, The Adepts at the front, they're going to have to do a little bit more. They will look to shade on into the natural. They will complete, actually, because, 2 Adepts, they one-tap drone, so you got some chance for damage here. And, oh, this is fancy. Trap's going to go on in with his Warp Prism, right? Use the Warp Prism to save the Adepts that have warped in once the army of Solar respawns. But Solar, he's like, okay, the push is over. I'm safe. I got it more than enough. Let's drone up. Let's get back up to that 45, 2 base, 3 gas, full saturation mark, and go from there. But Trap, he is not going into a third base behind this. This is not a, oh, you caught me, I'm going to try to macro out of this and hope I survive. No, this is a, well, okay, there's a third base going down now, but it's a 7-minute third base. That's not really a third base. It doesn't really count. But now Trap, he's just going to look to lean on into this with a higher level of tech. This is pretty reminiscent, actually, to the style that Zest was playing back in the IM Katowice, where you're doing this push, although his was off a 4-gate, and behind it, you're just hitting it with a really powerful Immortal Sentry timing. So now a bunch of Zerglings, they will find their way on into the natural here of Trap, and things are just going from bad to worse. If Trap was not already all in, well, this run by may very well force him to do so, as he will recall half of his units, but half the units means that only half the units are just trying to fight this army. That is a lot of Zerglings, a lot of Roaches, a lot of Ravagers. They're going to get the full surround, and we're going to start to see some Biles go on down here, but nice micro here. The Zelts will be able to, the Adepts will be able to get themselves out for the moment, but now, of course, we're going to see the Biles go on down. That means no Warp-ins here, none whatsoever. The army of Trap is just falling apart here. Solar, he's got a 20 supply lead. And yes, he can save one of the Immortals. Actually, he will save all 3, but 11 workers have gone down. And Solar, he just continues to build more units. Alright, so now, of course, the Adepts, what they're doing here is they're just forcing Solar to not be able to fight with his entire army, which is a good way to play this. But that does mean, of course, that eventually Solar will get on top of things. But you got to remember, his Ravagers are at the front of the fight. They're not the back of the fight. And that makes life a little bit difficult for him. And actually, we are starting to see the supplies equalize here just a little bit. But 2 Immortals, or actually only 1 Immortal. 1 Immortal has gone down. Immortal is at the bottom side of the screen. It's fighting so well here on like 0 HP. And has Trap broken through here? Has he done what he needs to do? These Immortals are collectively so freaking low. But now we're starting to see workers go down. That being said, though, it is still 41 workers to 27 from Trap here. He doesn't have an economy. He doesn't really have an army, and we're starting to see more and more army from Solar here. So, yeah, Trap, it looked like he had a good idea for a moment, and he absolutely did. And there we go. We have 3 Immortals now joining the fight. Only 1 Immortal has died in this game. But it's 47's army supply to 29. That's one of those the supply marks where you're like, okay, yeah, the Zerg's in a pretty good spot here. There was a moment when Trap equalized army supply, and that's kind of that tipping point you see in Protoss all-ins, where if the army supplies are equal, the Protoss all-in is actually in a really good spot, but that is not the case in this game. It's not the Roaches, the Zerglings. They're going to run on forward here, trying to get on top of the Immortals at the very least, do some sort of damage, but Trap's micro with the Warp Prism, with the Immortals, is nothing short of exemplary here. He's doing such a good job of keeping these Immortals that are so freaking low alive for so long. Immortals, 24 kills, 19 kills, and 13 kills on these Immortals. I mean, they are just doing so much. They're such a stalwart presence in this army as Trap continues to try to take the fight, and he still doesn't have a third base. He still does not have any sort of economic potential in this game. And what that means is all Solar's got to do is survive. Now, Zerglings will go on in there and say, hey, is there a third base? No, there's not. And actually, there's a chance here they can get on top of these Immortals because the Warp Prism's not there, which means, again, that means the Immortals are very vulnerable. Now, the Immortal drop in the main base, that's a good thing. That's a pretty powerful thing because, well, actually, no, that's not Immortal drop. I'm sorry. The Adept drop coming on in here will be able to get 7 workers. And Trap now, well, okay, he's not going to get third base for just about forever and a days. Now we have Creep getting pooped out by the Overlord on top of that third base location. So if Trap wants to third base, he's going to have to take the far less safe one. That being said, though, this is always the case when you look at these Adept timings. The first push does nothing. You hold it super well. And then like 4 Adepts and a Warp Prism go on and kill 10 workers. But I do like this from Trap, though. This is a very Roach, Ravager-heavy army. And we do see disruptors on the way. We see warp prism speed on the way. So the Zhou-Un response, but oh, look at that from Solar. Okay, he's not going to get too much in there, but you got to remember these Zerglings. So what Solar did, he saw that the Zealot was not on hold position, so he moves back to force the Zealot out of the wall, and then he goes back in and takes advantage of that opportunity before Trap notices, which is a really cool little bit of micro, but unfortunately, it's not going to do too much. But this will be double Disruptor Warp Prism speed, which means that with all these Ravagers, that's actually a pretty hard thing to do. But once again, Trap, no third base. His income is in the toilet. Alright, so now we have our two disruptors. Oh, actually 3 disruptors on the map because your caster can count. And we're going to have to see just how much damage Solar's going to be able to get with this. The first shot, going to get, what is that, 2 Roaches. Already a pretty good option here. But of course the goal is the Ravagers. Killing off the Ravagers will make this push more viable. And it is only a 20 supply deficit. So not the worst thing, but look at this round coming on in here from Solar. Disruptor shots not really going to hit what they need to, and suddenly it's a 40 army supply deficit here. The Roach is getting on top of all the tech units, which means we do see Disruptors. They're just getting targeted down. Now that last Disruptor shot will get a lot of Roaches, but you got to remember, oh, the Disruptor flank coming on in though. That's a power flank. Only 1 Ravager goes down, and now the army of Trap, it is falling through the floor. 2 Immortals doing everything they can to make sure that they stay alive, that the army is able to thrive. But at the end of the day, it's not really going to matter all that much. Well, as I say that, Trap's taking the best possible fight, but he's just down. He's just down too much. He has not been able to get enough damage with this attack over the course of the game, and now that means that he is going to die here. Now the Immortals and the Stalkers, they will move forward, and a lot of these Ravagers will go down, but the Warp Prism is dead, which means there's no reinforcement, no micro, and GG Solar, he's going to take a 2-0 lead in this series. So there you have it. Solar, he has that 2-0 lead, 1 game away from knocking Trap out. A Trap that has been dominant in this matchup, by the way. He 2-1 Rogue. He's been looking pretty good elsewhere. And absolutely. Well, absolutely looking really good in this matchup. And Solar, he's on a tour de force. But now, Game 3 will be on Oxide. We're going to have to see whether Solar can start to bring things back as he looks to move on into the round of 4. We're going to have to see whether he's able to do that. As now, we're going to load on in to our 3rd map. Spawning in the upper right, in the blue, representing Kaiser Gaming, nursing this 2-0 lead, 1 map from victory. Give it up for Solar. And his back against the wall in this tournament for the Freak of Freaks. Give it up for Trap. So what are we going to see here in this game number 3? Are we going to see a Twilight Council build? I don't think so. Trap trying to go a little tricky there in that second game. Do something snazzy, doing something a little bit weird. But of course, 6-gate adept very rarely works out. And especially not in this meta where I honestly feel like these Twilight Council Glaive adept builds, they're what a Protoss does when they want to lose a game. And I know that's not true. I mean, you're never trying to lose a game. And that's a little bit hyperbolistic, but I cannot remember the last time I saw a 4-gate adept build work in the context of a series. So really what it does more than anything is it just, the goal when you do it, even if you know you're probably going to lose the game, is to remind the Zerg that they cannot cut corners to ignore it. Because it is possible, and if the Zerg does cut corners, and just ignore the possibility of this build, that is when the build can do a lot of damage. That is when maybe you can take a free win. So by forcing the Zerg to react, to follow their builds, as if this is a possibility, does make your other builds that much more powerful. So it's more of a build you throw out from this idea of game theory, rather than the actual build that you want to go for. So we do have a Warp Gate into Stargate. So this, my friends, this is the build that I've been talking about. This is the build that I've been hyping up. It is Warp Gate into Stargate into a 350 third base, into a second Stargate immediately afterwards, right around the 4-minute mark, into 6 Void Rays, 6 to 8 Void Rays. Sometimes you get +1 air attack before you get the third base, but you know, Silo Mismo, they're just about the same. It just depends on how defensive you want to be. Into Charge Lot Immortal Archon Storm, or Charge Lot Archon Storm, more accurately. You don't get Immortals as much. Into Carriers. This is the build that Trap has been making his bread and butter on. This is the build that Trap beat Rogue with. This is the build that has just dominated the PvZ meta over the last several weeks. Now, in all fairness, though, this map, of all maps to do it on, is a bit scary. Because it's really easy, actually, to just waddle your queens across the map. It is a very short ground rush distance. And what this means is that, well, you don't even need to do the German taxi, as that does not appear to be the build that Solar's going to go for. Anyways, we see no Overlord speed on the way. We see no 4-minute layer. Actually, Solar, he's not even really back into gas mining at the moment. So we're going to have to see how he elects to deal with this. So there we have the third base on the way. 3 minutes and 50 seconds. We progress onwards. Interestingly, though, we do not see Trap with that second Stargate just yet. We're going to have to see whether his Oracle micro is going to be a little bit better. He gets 3 workers immediately, and he does not lose the Oracle. So his rather suspect Oracle micro in the first game, while he appears to have shaken that demon for the time being, but this is still only 1 Stargate. So Trap, of course, he understands this build more so than anyone else. He understands this build more than anyone else. He's kind of one of the progenitors of it. So whatever adaptations he opts to make this work, and based off his game read, absolutely it's the proper way to play. So if you're at home and you're like, how do I make this new Stargate style work? Well, watch a lot of Trap games. Watch this game, watch his games against Cyril, watch his games against Rogue, watch his games against any Zerg you can find, because he's playing a lot of this build. And he's playing many different variants of the build as well. So it looks like in this game he wants to get into Charge Lot Archon Storm just a little bit faster at the expense of the 6 Void Rays and the second Stargate. And yeah, you maybe don't have as stalwart of an air defense, but on the flip side, you get into Storm that much faster. Templar Archives, of course, it is already on the way. Actually, it's going to be done just about the time that Charge is done, actually a little bit faster. So this scary Charge Lot Archon Storm army that Trap is going to go for, it's going to be fast. It's going to be faster than it normally would be. And maybe that's something that Trap can use to take advantage of Solar maybe being a little bit greedy, because, of course, Solar, he's going for a Spire in this game. Now, I don't know whether this is just Solar's response to a Stargate opening. It appears to be, because every map that we've seen a Stargate opening coming on from Trap thus far, Solar has gone for this Spire build, and in part, it makes sense. Single Stargate openers, for the most part, they are not aggressive openers. They are, I'm going to get to a quick third. I'm not going to attack you before about 7 minutes. So it makes sense to get a Spire. It means you will not die to some sort of 2.5 base timing, most likely, because the Protoss only has room for so many things. It only has money for so many options in the game. But now we do have, Storm was on the way and actually canceled, because I think Trap now actually wants to go for a bit more of an aggressive option here. Okay, that's what it is. He scouted the Spire, so we have Phoenix on the way, second Stargate on the way here. Bunch of Archons, but look at this Trap, his army already getting ready to move across the map. hoping to hit this timing before the oh, okay. He's hoping to hit this timing before the Spire completes, but look at this. The Spire, it was canceled. So now Trap, he's got this free timing. There are not many roaches on the map. Trap just about even on army supply with his opponent, and we're just going to start to see things get rallied on in. Now, there is no Robo, so there will be no Warp Prism for the duration. None of that. We're going to have to see whether Trap can really make this timing work, as he is still going into double Stargate Phoenix behind this, which makes sense in the context of it being a Spire game, but not in the context of it being a Swarm host game. But you gotta remember, it really does feel like Solar, this Swarm host timing, it's hitting like 2 minutes late. Generally, when you look at the Swarm host tax, they're moving out across the map at 6 minutes. It's not on a heavy economy, it's not off of a force base, it is just off of +1 and a bunch of Swarm hosts. But now 13 Swarm hosts are on the way, and the question is whether Trap will notice this, whether Trap will be aware of this and actually be able to do something about it. Now, he does have to, because he is down 2-0 in this series. His tournament life is on the line, and he will... Yeah, he will see the Swarm. Okay, so he will see the Swarm host, and that should be his go button. He does not want the Swarm host to be allowed onto his side of the map. He does not want the Swarm host to be able to just lean on into Trap, into himself. And that is where things get a little bit dicey. Now the Queens, they're waddling across the map as well. This is Solar really going all in against this double Stargate style that's actually not a double Stargate style. So some transfused energy will already be used to keep these Swarm hosts alive. But what we have to look for is the efficacy of the first wave. So now we do have the adept, or excuse me, the Locust. They will go on into the natural here. It looks like they're just going to go to snipe, excuse me. Yeah, they're just going to get a High Templar. Maybe get the, oh, they're going to get the Templar Archives as well. I don't think they're going to get the third base. There we go. So getting a High Templar, getting the Templar Archives, that's already really nice traits because you want those Archons to be able to shoot them down from the skies. And do notice, of course, that Solar landed one Locust to set off the stasis trap. And then he went from there. Then he landed everything else to make sure he got the maximum possible damage. But you got to remember Trap's number that he's looking at, much like with Mech. So he wants to get over that 150 supply count. That is where suddenly this army from the Zerg is not nearly as scary as it once was. And now we have Disruptors out. Disruptors here are going to trade so well against the Locusts, against the Queens, against the Archons, against the Ravagers, against pretty much everything that the Zerg has. And now, of course, the Locust waves, they're all gone. Now, these Disruptors, though, they are going to be misdirected. That is a big problem, Trap, that he needs to solve here to make sure he stays alive in this game number 3, but it looks like that's not going to matter at all. The rest of the army of the Zerg player is getting cleaned on up here. The Archons, the Immortals, firing strong. There is no anti-air at the moment, so now we do have these Void Rays. There's nothing that can deal with them. That being said, though, one will go down to a Ravager Bile, and that is that's not what you want for Trap when every unit matters in the context of this hold. All right, so now we have Solar. He's going to look to move on into the third base. Disruptor shot number 1 will get tremendous damage, but you got to spend it on these Locusts. Actually, you don't. The army here of Solar is going to take some tremendous Disruptor shots, and the army of Trap, it's still here. Yeah, he's not at 150 supply yet, but look at the supply of Solar. It is going down rapidly. It is going down, and more importantly, the supplies are equaling. It doesn't matter if you're not at that scary 150 supply mark that makes you not care about the Swarm host quite as much anymore. When your opponent's only at 150, when you're only down 30-odd army supply to an incredibly supply inefficient Zerg army here. Now, of course, Trap does have to be careful. He can't move across the map yet. He has no Storm. He actually did he rebuild the Templar Archives? He did. Okay, so he can continue to build Archons. But he will actually be a little bit out of position here. And the Locusts should be able... Okay, never mind. Trap is back in position, and we will see some Disruptor shots go off, wiping away most of these Locusts. They will land on top of one of these Disruptors, killing them off, getting an Archon as well, but that should be the extent of their damage. And now there's a 45-second timing. Well, actually less, because, of course... Well, there's the flight time of the Locust, but call it a 30-second timing window where there are no Locusts on the map, which means a good portion, something like 40 of Solar supply, is not useful, cannot do anything. And that gives Trap a little bit of time to prepare, a time to get his fourth base up, time to get up double Colossus production on up here, and he's just going to have so much splash damage that it will be incredibly difficult for Solar to really do anything with these Locusts. They will get targeted down immediately, and then it's just going to be a undersupplied army of Roach Ravager that's looking to get something done. Now, this fourth base will come under fire here, but these Disruptor shots are just so efficient All right, so now Baneling's coming on in here, and look at that. The big glowing ball will knock out almost all the Banelings. And there we go. The fourth base will have to be canceled, of course, but Trap, he is now sustaining at the 50 supply mark. And look at this, he will find some of these Swarm Hosts. Now, Swarm Hosts are decently tanky. They have a decent HP pool, so it's going to take a little bit of time for these to go down. And the Stalkers, though, they will blink forward. 2, 3, 4, 5 Swarm Hosts are going to get taken down in the blink of an eye. And now Trap, he's even on supply. He is ahead on army supply even, and he has the better army. He has the more powerful army. These Banelings will not be allowed to morph. And now Trap crushing on forward in this game number 3. His life on the line, but it looks like he's going to buy himself yet another lifeline in this series, as he is milliseconds away from finally snatching victory. It's been a long hold. It's been a difficult hold, but at the end of the day, the Colossi, the Disruptors, they are standing strong, and these Locusts are not going to do what Solar is looking for in this game. And now it's all on Trap. Will he be able to push on through? Will he be able to remove the creep, crushing on top of creep here, and remove the army of Solar from the map, actually get on top of the seedy underbelly of the Zerg Hive, and do what he needs to do to take this game, just push us to game 4, and hopefully push us on into game 5. One last engagement coming in here from Solar, but the Disruptor shots will be big. They will be massive. The Colossus are not going down. The Disruptors, they're not going down, and now Trapped for the first time in this game. He has a significant supply lead. 20 army supply. Okay, just about even on the workers, but up 20 total supply here. Up on upgrades. And what in the world can Solar do? He's going to go for a surround once again. The Banelings, though, they're not going to be allowed to connect. Not really. The Colossi, they are fighting strong. And yes, some of these Disruptors, they're going down. The Biles are going to be pretty nice. But the Colossi, they're still there. They are still powerful. Of course, we don't have extended thermal lance, so they're not quite as powerful as you would like, but they're still good enough here with the last Phoenix lifts. GG Trap. He's going to take game number 3. All righty then. Trap, he takes a game. And that means he has new life in this series, but he's still down a game. Still 2-1 in favor of Solar. And game number 4 will be on Romanticide. Of course, the Progenitor. The map that started all of this double Stargate nonsense. In fact, the best map to do it on. So we have to see whether that is what Trap goes for or goes for something else. We shall see, but, well, game number 4, it's all loaded up. Let's get into it. Here we are, spawning in the bottom right in the blue. Up 2 games to 1 in this best of 5. Give it up for Solar. And his opponent in the upper right. In the red is back against the wall, but fighting back strong in game number 3. For the Freak of Freaks, he's Trapped. All right, so in this game, Trap, he's not opting for a hatch block. Wants to get that little bit of extra money so he can maybe get a little bit faster Nexus, hit a little bit faster timing, whatever he decides to go for. But I think in this map, he's just kind of come to the determination that A, Solar is unlikely to 12 pull him in this series because of how Solar has been playing, and B, this is a fairly defensive map. It's kind of hard for 12 pull to work anyways. And C, if you can spot a 12 pull even with a Cyber Scout that Trap is going for in this game, and realistically, forcing the Zerg to take his third as his natural in this map, it doesn't do all that much. So we do see Solar here going for a bit more aggressive of a third base, or not aggressive, but a bit more stylistic of a third base, we'll call it that. This is the Korean style of ZVP, where you take your third base at 1920 supply instead of 20 to 32 supply. I'm not going to say one is better than the other. You just, of course, you only get 1 queen to start instead of 2 because you spent 300 minerals and a drone on your third base. So eventually it means you get better creep spread. It means you will have more queens. It means you will have more larvae to work with. But on the flip side, your early game economy takes a little bit of a hit. At the end of the day, it's 6 one way, half dozen the other. Very much a stylistic choice. So we're going to have to see exactly where Solar decides to take this, whether this is to enable him to go into some sort of quick timing, or whether this is just this is how he feels is most powerful on a more defensive macro map. But of course, Trap, he is going for a Stargate build once again, but this is not the build he showed last game. Of course, this is Stargate into Warp Gate, so we're going to see most likely an Oracle first, or maybe a Phoenix into Oracle, Void Ray into Oracle, something like that. But the Oracle, whatever it is, the Stargate units will be out a little bit faster. On the flip side, though, of course, it does mean that Warp Gate's going to be done a little bit slower. So there we have a Void Ray on the way, removing all the scouting from our Zerg player, and we're just going to have to see exactly where Trap opts to go after this. All right, so now a bunch of adepts, they will find their way on into the main base here. A couple workers will go down, but really nothing more than that. And this is always a little bit annoying for the Zerg, but this just kind of feels how the game's going at this point. The amount of games that, again, you see the adepts straight on into the main base, into the natural, 2 workers go down, and it's a bit problematic, but now we're going to see 4 workers die, and suddenly Solar's a lot less happy than he was. Okay, 2 workers, fine, whatever. No big deal. 4, though. 4 is, well, it's twice as much as you expect to lose. And now Trap, he's got that 3rd base on the way. The question, though, is whether we will see... There it is! 2nd Stargate. Trap, he is going... Well, we're going to see some more Void Rays on the way here. Of course, this Oracle's going to try to get some more damage done, but 3 Queens are in the natural, so the Oracle not really going to have room to get really what it wants here. But on the flip side, do we have any Spores? We don't! Oh, man, massive oversight here from Solar. Granted, the Oracle, not interested in going out in. I guess he assumes there's a Spore, even if there isn't. But Solar, that's a quick lair. 430 lair, a little bit faster than usual, but of course no German taxi once again. That's a 4-minute lair that you would get, and you would get Overlord speed. And at the same time, there we go. We have Templar Archives on the way, Forge is on the way, +1. Charge will be the next options here. We will see a Templar Archives after this, and it's going to be, well, I am actually surprised. Okay, there we go. Now we're starting to see Void Ray production. I was going to say, I'm surprised we don't see more Void Rays. When you commit to double Stargate like this, you do go up to 8 Voids. But now the Adepts will find their way on in, and this is just damage in drips and drabs for our Protoss player. But at the end of the day, he's going to be like 12 workers, 8 workers have died, so that's a really good little bit of damage here for our Afrika Freaks Protoss player. Alright, so now, interesting stasis trap. We'll get 1 drone. 1 drone is not exactly the bounty that Trap is looking for, but yeah, it'll work out. So I'm interested to see where Solar takes us. Okay, so he's going to go for a Spire as a response to this. I don't know whether he has seen just how many Void Rays there are on the map, but this quick Spire build, it was the answer before Protoss just realized how to be as safe as they are. Because there was a time where you would just kind of go quick Spire, and you just get Ling Bane underneath it, and you just get a bunch of Corruptors, and you just sit them over the production, and you just snipe the stuff as it comes up. That was more for the Carrier Rush build, which has really fallen out of favor. This Mass Void Ray build, with Void Rays as buffed as they are, and as good as they are against Corruptors anyways, well, it's not all that great. Now, we may see some sort of, like, Corruptor Queen Roach timing. I can see something like that working, where you just have the Queens underneath to A, do additional damage, and B, transfuse the Corruptors as they're dying, but just pure Muta, pure Corruptor. It's gotta be an interesting choice, absolutely. And especially considering, well, Trap is scouted. He sees the Spire, he knows what's coming here. So there we go, we have +1 air on the way. More and more Void Rays on the way here. I would not be surprised to see Phoenix happen after this. But no, it's gonna be the Corruptor option here. So this is going to be Roach Queen Corruptor tech coming from Solar in this game. And this is something you don't see all that often. I mean, it makes sense. It's a similar idea to going Corruptors against Mutas, where you just you just overbuild Corruptors and you just get a bunch of Roaches and Queens underneath, and you push across the map and hope to win in one climactic push. But Void Rays are really good against Corruptors. This cannot be understated how good they are. Oh, the Archon, or this Oracle is just finding so much damage. We'll eventually get taken out, though. So there you go. Oracle's down. But the Corruptors, they have been scouted. How many Corruptors does Solar go up to in this game? Going up to at least 12. But I believe the math is it's like 1.75 Corruptors per Void Ray to actually fight appropriately. It might even be 2.5. But now, okay, the Void Rays, they will turn on their beams, and 2 Corruptors, they just get snapped down in an instant. Well, 1.5. And the Corruptors, they're going to have to think long and hard before they take this fight, because, well, Storm is now done too. So Void Rays plus a Storm on top of the Corruptors does mean that these Corruptors do not take the fight they're looking for. Look, they're already all in the yellow, already taking, like, call it a sixth of their health? I don't know. We know do fractions good. But this is pretty cool. This is triple Stargate, but because Trap has noticed that, hey, Solar's just going for Mass Corruptor, I have no need to get carriers. So we're going to see triple Void Ray production coming on up, and there is no Hydra, there's no Hydra Den. There's no, oh, I forced you into a lot of Void Rays and I'm going to catch you with it. That is not the tech choice whatsoever. And now Solar, he is getting just a wee bit aggressive here in this game number 4. And 1 Corruptor will go down immediately. Now Solar looking to open up his attack paths just a little, making sure that he can get these full surrounds on the ground army of his opponent. But honestly, as long as the storms come out, the ground army of Trap doesn't matter. What matters is the fact that he has 10 Void Rays to the 15 Corruptors, and that is just not a fight. These Corruptors will win. The Void Rays, they have +1 as well. So yeah, the Corruptors do too, but that doesn't even really matter. Now the Queens, they're going to look to maybe hit some transfuses. And if Biles land appropriately, maybe, just maybe, Solar can take this fight. But look at the storms. The ground army is melting. The air army, okay, hasn't taken too many storm shots. But now we do have the Void Rays. They're going to pile on in, and there is no overcharge. They are all on cooldown for the moment. But look at these storms. The Queens are dead as well. And hey, we have Flux Veins on the way here. So these Void Rays are rapidly going to be much more maneuverable, much more powerful. Alright, so once again we have the fight coming on in here. The Biles will not land. The Archon will stay alive, and now the Void Rays, they're just going to keep going on forward. So much damage here, and they will not... Okay, there we go. Biles will not land. That one will, though, actually. Nice Bile there. But now the Void Rays going to say, hey, you know what, to hell with these Biles. Let's just kill a bunch of Corruptors. Absolutely. Now the Pulsar Beams will turn on, and the Corruptors, they just kind of died. They just absolutely died. There we go. Corruptors, they're falling off the map. And Solar, this was an interesting tech path for him. Maybe he expected faster, or maybe he expected Phoenix or something, or maybe he expected because he was scouted that his opponent would expect Mass Phoenix, so he went Corruptors to counter the eventual Phoenix. I don't really know. Or maybe it's just Mass Carrier was the name of the game. But regardless, Mass Corruptor against Mass Void doesn't really feel all that great. And now, oh no, Trap. He's found all the Overlords. Solar is going to be so freaking supply blocked in this game. Now, he does have to be careful. These Biles will land, but there's just no Corruptors on the map. Not anymore. They've just lost too many of their number. 3, 2, 1. Done. Corruptors, they're all gone. And we do see Trap. He will have to deal with this army at home. This Zergling Roach Ravager army is still powerful. Still can pack a punch here, but Trap, he's up 20 army supply. His Void Rays in the sky are more than powerful enough, and GG Trap. He's going to take us to our 5th and final game. All right, so Trap, he was able to defend. He was able to hold that push. He was able to make sure he did not die. And now, we're going to have to see exactly how much he will be able to do as he move on into this 5th and final game. Trap angling for the reverse sweep. Solar took the first 2 games. Trap took the next 2. Game 5 will be on Pillars of Gold. It is a bigger map. It is a more macro map, and you're going to have to wait for me for half a second because StarCraft just crashed. So I'm going to take this moment to say, hey, those of you watching at home, make sure to follow the AlphaX YouTube. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to this video and all the others that exist. Tell me how terrible I am. Crush my ego into the floor, because we all know that is what YouTube comments are for. But it's going to be fine, because now we're going to try to load on into Game 5 once again. Hopefully StarCraft does not crash this time. And away we go. Solar Trap game number 5 in this best of 5. Winner moves on to the round of 4 to play Clem, the winner of Clem Bunny. And loser, well, they fall out of the tournament. Unfortunately for them, it's a tight game. It's a tie series. It's 2-2. Ace match time. Let's get into game number 5. Spawning in the bottom left, in the blue for Kaiser Gaming, perhaps for the last time, he is Solar. And his opponent in the upper right, in the red, looking to claw his way all the way back here in this quarterfinals. Give it up for Trap. So what do we see? Game number 5. We've seen some Stargate build. We've seen some Twilight builds. We've seen some Spire tech, and every time Solar tries to go for any sort of Twilight tech or some sort of Spire tech, it just doesn't really work out for him. Whether he goes and he cancels it because he realizes there's an attack incoming and he's been scouted, whether he goes and tries to go for a wonky tech out of it, or even if he does go into mutas, that just is, I guess the muta game he won. But the other 2 games did not work out for him in the slightest. So now Trap, he's on series point. Coming down from 2 games to 0, Solar had any opportunity to throw anything kind of weird in these previous 2 games, hoping to get a cheap win because it's best of 5 and he had 2 games to give. But now it's game 5. Now Solar, his back is against the wall as well, and Trap has all the momentum. And you might say, it's just a video game, Beo. What are you talking about? But momentum is a thing. You maybe don't deal with physical exhaustion quite as much with the whole, my muscles are too tired to go on, I've played too many games, whatever. But your wrists can get tired, your fingers can get tired. You can get mentally tired, you can get mentally distracted. Tilting is absolutely something that these players have to worry about and deal with. Momentum is powerful, and it's pretty actually interesting to see how that can happen. There are some, the biggest example here is Sulky versus Innovation in the first GSL of Heart of the Swarm. Innovation was killing Zergs left and right. He was by far seen as the most powerful Terran player, best player in the world. And he just absolutely wrecks his way to the grand finals of the GSL. There he finds Sulky, the Iron Curtain, or the Iron Wall, something like that. And he runs into Sulky here, and he 3-0s the first 3 maps. He's looking dominant. He is looking absolutely dominant in this series. But then Sulky takes a map off a cheesy build, and he takes another map. And he takes another map. And suddenly, well, it's game 7, and Innovation has not won the last 3 maps, and more importantly than that, he has lost. Not more importantly, he has lost the last 3 maps. Suddenly, the momentum is not on his side, and game 7 didn't even look close. Sulky just smashed him because he had that momentum, and you kind of had Innovation second guessing himself. Innovation falling into these mind games of, oh my goodness, I was up 3-0. How am I at game 7? And that's where things went. And Trap now making a really interesting decision here in this game number 5. He went for a adept push. An adept play in game number 2, and it did not work out well for him at all. The game went a little bit long, but it just eventually Solar said, look, I've done enough damage to you by holding this. You don't have an economy, you don't have the tech you need. Some good surrounds later, Trap was dead. Solar had the 2-0 lead. But now we do have Trap going for a Twilight tech in this game number 3, but this is not going to be, in fact, your standard Glaive timing. In fact, this is the rarer one. We do have a Dark Shrine on the way here, and we're just going to have to see how much damage Trap is going to be able to do with this. Now, this was the meta. This was the only build Protoss players were playing for quite a while, several years ago, when CJ Intis Hero really was pushing this build forward. Not to be confused with Team Liquid Hero, of course. And he was doing this every game, and it was powerful, and then some buffs happened, some nerfs happened, and it just fell out of the meta. We're going to have to see whether Trap goes for this, whether he does actually even go for DTs as actually doing something on the map first, or whether we will see him just go straight into an Archon drop. That is kind of how that build progressed eventually, as Zerg players just kind of got too used to dealing with it. But look at, Trap, this is pretty cool. So Trap is going for is making it look that this is absolutely a Glaive timing on this game. You don't move out across the map with four adepts unless you are going for a Glaive timing. Not really. But now, DTs, they're on the way in. The question, though, Solar sees them with his Zerglings, but the question is whether he actually saw them. As one DT is going on into the third base. Oh, no, the DTs, they will be able to get on top of this Spore before it completes, but now it does complete, and that means you can transfuse it. So not getting a whole lot done, but this DT in the main base, though, this is the question. Will it get what it wants to get done here? Is there a Spore in the main base? There is. DT Tech getting absolutely nothing done. And this is a Twilight opening, so, of course, the logic says that Stargate openers, they can kind of get the Protoss into the mid-game without getting too much damage done, but actually, any sort of Twilight Tech has to get so much damage done. So look at this. Actually, this is really cool. So the two DTs that are just sitting here, they're fighting around left and right. They're forcing the Spore to lift, and that does mean that's going to be a little bit harder for anything to happen. So now this DT is just going to sit in the corner of the map. We will wait, of course, for an observer to happen to be able to make sure that well, that DT does go down. And I guess what Trap's going to be hoping for is that they forget about the DT. But no, it's being active. It's killing off some Zerglings, killing off some drones. And that will force the observer, the DT, not going to be able to cause too much havoc later on. But now we have a couple depths in the third base. These queens, though, should be more than enough to defend, especially with the Zerglings as well. And that, it will complete. And we're going to start to see some workers go down. We should see 3, I believe. Actually, no, good micro there from Solar. Only going to see 2 workers from this push go on down. 7 total drones have died over the course of this game, which is not amazing, but it's not terrible either. So behind this Trap, he does have a third base on the way, Blink on the way as well, Immortals. So he's just going for this powerful ground pound ground army. But you got to remember, this is not charged. This is actually, the third base is not done. The third base was not started until like 5:15, 5:30, which means that this is a fake third, ladies and gentlemen. This is not. Trap has very little intention of actually going on and doing something with his third. Yeah, he is building workers, so he does want to have that economic basis should this not work. But I mean, with the gates that have gone down here, with the fact that Blink is about halfway done, with the fact that, well, this army is big as posturing, Trap is absolutely going to go for a little bit of pressure behind this third base, because that is the logic. You need to get something done. If you take third base after 4:30, you need to do significant, at least game equalizing damage, if not game ending damage. So now we have the Zerg army. It looks like it was wiped out in the middle of the map, and now, okay, this DT is getting something done in the third base. Will force the entire army of our Protoss or of our Zerg player back. But the Zergling counterattack onto the third base. Actually, Zergling drop on the main base too. This is a pretty cool move here from Solar. Really will force Trap back for the moment. And this Dark Templar will eventually go down. Oh yeah, these Zerglings will not get a whole lot done. That's fine. Of course, the big deal here is Trap has been forced back. Trap looking to hit this powerful timing, but if we look at the supply counts, things are a little bit scary here. Look at these supply odds. 59 army supply to 106 is now Solar pushing on in for a series win, for a date with Clem in the semifinals. But the question is whether or not he will be able to make this push happen. Now we have Shield Battery Overcharge coming on in. Nice Warp Prism Micro, keeping these Immortals alive for the moment. And they are doing so much damage here. The question, though, was whether Trap can hold. Stalkers and Immortals are exactly what he needs to be able to deal with the Roaches here. But again, the question, it's not a question of quality, it's a question of quantity. Will he be able to hold here? One Immortal will go down, as it has done a pretty good job of holding, but more and more Immortals on the way, more and more Stalkers are on the way. The supply gap, it is plummeting just a little, but you gotta remember, this is still 70 supply, 240, and now that Immortal will be saved, the probes have been pulled. But it is 3 Immortals and a bunch of Blink Stalkers. Now the Stalkers, they will blink forward. +1 is just about done here, and Trap, has he slapped aside this push from Solar that Solar was looking for to make sure that he finds this date with Clem in the semifinals. Trap, his army supply is equaling. Now he's only down 15. He's going to be able to chase on top of these Ravagers. Once again, Ravager goes down, and Trap, these supplies have equalized. He's up 10 workers. The supply gap, it's only 5 army supply. And Trap, he's got better upgrades. He's got better attack. And it looks like Trap, despite his early pressure not getting anything done, despite how late his third base was, despite how scary that army of Solar was, absolutely, Trap, it looks like he's held. And Solar, he's going to go for another attack here, but he's going to have to kill with this one even more than he did with the last, and I'm not sure he can. He's only up 20 army supply. There are shield batteries at home. There is shield battery overcharge at home, and there are 2 Immortals in this War Prism looking to just really micro their butts off to make sure that things can die. So we have a couple Archons on the way even as well. Zergling's trying to get on top of things, but these Immortals, those Blink Stalkers, they are firing strong. These are +1 Immortals, +1 Blink Stalkers, by the way. They are incredibly powerful. Now, the Ravager Cocoons on the front there, that's really cute. It will keep these Roaches alive for the moment here, but now they will get canceled. The Stalkers are going to blink on forward. The army of Solar, it's falling apart, and GG Trap. He is going to take game 5. He will move on to face Clem in the semifinals of DreamHack